Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Saturday, October 26th, 2024. And on an absolutely sensational Saturday morning here in the Macedon Ranges. Absolutely beautiful today. Probably see in the sky behind me, barely a cloud in the sky, sun's out, nice and warm, and it's going to be a beautiful day. All right, on to the boxing, and as usual, or as expected, yesterday, of course I did a video and I mentioned the Sam Goodman no-in-away fight being announced in Japan, Christmas Eve, and it got me thinking. Of course, the flood, or whatever you might want to call it, of comments about Sam Goodman's chances in that fight, probably to be expected. Not much hope for Sam, not a lot of people giving him any hope whatsoever, and I've had my say on that. But what I sort of got to thinking about is, what if? Now, again, you know my thoughts on it. I think it's not going to end too well for Sam, although I really give him full plaudits for taking the fight. But what if he did win the fight? And the reason I was sort of thinking about that, I was sort of going back to the last, it's not even decades, it's just the last probably 7 years of Aussies involved in massive upsets. Now this, if he did pull it off, it would be probably, in my opinion, the fourth absolute boil over involving an Aussie since 2017. And the one fight that sort of kicked this off in 2017 was Jeff Horn's memorable win over the legendary Manny Pacquiao at Suncorp Stadium in front of 51,000 people. Then there was George Kambosos' win over Teofimo Lopez at Madison Square Garden, the little one, but still at Madison Square Garden. Then we had this year, Liam Paro with the win over Sabril Matias, and then possibly this one. So if it did happen, and again, I'm just hypothetically speaking here, what would be the biggest boil over of all those four fights? And I still can't believe it's in the space of 7 years. It's just crazy, or 7.5 years, whatever it might be. Because you go back to Jeff Horn, and look, Jeff Horn, an absolute unknown in the boxing world, outside of Australia, that is. And look, if I'm being fair, probably didn't warrant getting that title shot, because he literally fought nobody. It was just through the relationships and promoting or managing, whatever it might be, through Duco at the time, David Higgins and Dean Lonergan, who got Jeff Horn that fight. But at the end of the day, he had to do the rest. And I was at that fight, and it was one of the most amazing days ever. So that was the first one. Then you go up, and of course, sorry, I'll just go back to the circumstance of the fight. Manny Pacquiao, you could tell he did not rate Jeff Horn whatsoever. I would be surprised if he'd even heard of Jeff Horn at the time, and he was surprised. Now, whether he came in underprepared, look, he still looked physically good in the fight, but mentally he was, they just thought this was a warm-up fight. I remember even sitting at the same table for, I think it was a brunch or lunch or something one day, and Justin Fortune was there, and who was one of the team of Manny Pacquiao, and they said the only way Jeff Horn wins this fight, in his opinion, is if Manny trips up the stairs on the way up the ring and breaks his ankle or something like that, or twists his knee. That was the line of thought. Now, I'm sure that Freddie Roach and Manny didn't think exactly that way, but you sort of get the gist. So they didn't rate Jeff Horn and paid the penalty. The next one, George Kambosos over Teofimo Lopez. Wow, what a performance that was. To go over to the States against a fighter who was probably regarded as in the top 10 pound for pound, or at least very close to it. Definitely an up-and-coming superstar. He'd just beaten Vasily Lomachenko, and again, no doubt whatsoever, took George lightly. But the genius of George Kambosos in that fight is right from the word go. In the lead up to the fight, he was in Lopez's face. He did not take a backward step. He pretty much, just through looking at him, in the face-offs, just challenging him, like, I'm here to take your belts. And Lopez just slowly, you could just see, deteriorated mentally over the last few weeks of the build-up, and George Kambosos on the night course got off to a brilliant start and dropped in with that right hand in the first round and just took his heart. He really did. So, and the fact he was down in the 10th round and looked gone, or 11th round, whatever it was, and looked gone, and the regroup and to come back and win that fight, a little bit like Jeff Horn did against Manny. 9th round, he was in all sorts of trouble. And then came back and won, I thought, the last 2 or 3 rounds. And by the way, I thought Jeff Horn won the fight. I'm just putting it out there. George Kambosos, and again, that memorable upset win over Lopez. And then this year, probably didn't get the fanfare of the other two, but Liam Paro going to Puerto Rico to take the belt from Subriel Mateus, who didn't have the stature or the profile of Lopez or Manny Pacquiao, but still was regarded as a very, very tough champion. Liam went to his backyard to fight him, Puerto Rico. It's a tough gig to do that. And he did it, and did it in style, and pulled off, I think, one of the upsets of the year, and just boxed so well, kept his composure throughout the whole fight, and really, I thought, won the fight clearly against a fighter who was supposedly avoided and was one of the next big things coming up. I never really saw it that way, but still, to go to Puerto Rico and beat Subriel Mateus was just an unbelievable feat. So now we get to this fight with Sam Goodman and Inoue. I think, breaking it all down, I would say that this would be the biggest upset in boxing history, above those fights. I think when it comes to the Jeff Horn and Manny fight, it was in Australia. It was all sort of in Jeff's favour, and maybe he caught Manny at the right time, mentally or physically or whatever it was. The Teofimo Lopez win by George, great win, but Lopez is certainly not Inoue. And then you've got Paro and Mateus, who I just think Mateus is just probably not, while a very, very good, tough fighter, and as great as it was probably not at the level of Inoue, Pacquiao and Lopez. So I think if Sam Goodman can pull this off, it would be the biggest win by an Aussie boxer ever. To go to Japan against a prime and peak killer in Inoue, who's just made a path of destruction through 3 or 4 weight divisions, to go over there and take the belts that would be it for me. Above, even going back to Lionel Rose over fighting Harada, and Johnny Famechon over Jose Legra, and you name it, all those great fighters over the years, this would be it. So there's the test for Sam Goodman. Can he pull it off? And even just thinking about those other 3 fights, I mean, wow, to think that this could possibly be 4, but just even those 3 fights that happened in the space of 7 years, just crazy. Just 3 monumental upsets involving Aussie boxers. So give me your thoughts. Who would be, if Sam Goodman pulls this off, where does it rank those 4 fights? Horn over Pacquiao, Kambosos over Lopez, Paro over Mateus, or Goodman over Inoue? As I said, I think the Goodman over Inoue would be the biggest win ever. All right, so on to some other boxing news, and there's been some rumours in the last sort of day or so that Jaron Boots Ennis may move up to 154 to fight Virgil Ortiz in February. I think it's the 22nd on the Saudi Arabia Riyadh season card. Good fight, I like it. And they're also maybe talking about on the undercard having Jesse Bam Rodriguez, that is, against Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Now that's a ripper card. Big test for Ennis, I'll say, to go to 154 and fight a really good, tough, strong fighter in Virgil Ortiz. Now that would be for the WBC interim 154-pound belt. And I would say, what's Rodriguez got? He's got the super fly or light fly, whatever it is anyway. Must be, or it might even be flyweight. But yeah, 2 ripper fights there, February 22nd in Saudi Arabia, possibly. So we'll look forward to that one. And if that is the case, it's good to see them sort of branching out away from just the heavyweight sort of action and trying to take over lots of other divisions as well. The other one I saw, just a little one, a little rumour, if that's what you want to call it, in that Janabek Alam Kanuli is maybe targeting a move to 168 to fight Canelo Alvarez, or to put his name out there for a possible opponent for Canelo Alvarez. And I love the fight. I think I'm not going to call him Alam Canelo, I'm going to call him Janabek, would carry the weight very, very well. We know his weight troubles at 160, so I think the 168-pound move up would be quite beneficial to him. And geez, what an explosive fight that would be. I still think Canelo wins. I think, if anything, Janabek's probably I don't want to be too harsh, maybe a Timu version of Triple G. Just the same sort of model. But look, he's not Triple G, and we saw Canelo handle Triple G okay, arguably, that is. At least he won the third fight definitively anyway. So, but that's the rumours going around that Janabek could make the move to 168, which, as I said, which would be fantastic. Now, it can't be the weekend without a little bit of feedback about Oscar De La Hoya's clap back Thursday. Now, it comes out on a Friday afternoon or something here, which is why I'm doing it on a Saturday morning here. This week, purely and solely aimed at PBC. Now, he didn't make a dig at Tim Tszyu, he just referenced the fight, but pretty much pointed to mismatching or mismanaging by PBC. He said that, again, you've got to give it to Oscar. If he sees an opening, he's in there with his say. But what he was saying was that PBC waited until all the contracts of a lot of his star fighters were up, and then they made the move with a newly formed company and took a lot of Oscar De La Hoya's fighters, and since then they've mismanaged them. They only fight once every 2 or 3 years and all this sort of stuff. The only thing I'd probably say to that is he's right, 100% right. PBC, he said it's a sinking ship, and I would probably agree with that. The only thing I would probably say in the whole thing would be, if he did such a great job with the fighters and paid them accordingly and all that sort of stuff, then why did they all leave en masse? So, which means a lot of them at the same time. So that's probably the only clapback to the clapback I would probably say, is that if he looked after them so well and built their careers so well, then why did they all leave? And I know PBC were throwing around a lot of money at the time, and maybe that's why they're in the trouble they are, because they just couldn't sustain it. So probably a bit of both anyway. He took great delight in calling out those traitors, as he said, and especially referencing Tim Tszyu, who he did say he had a lot of respect for, but was badly mismatched or mispromoted or mismanaged, whatever you might want to call it. So, but you got to love Oscar. And of course, he gave Canelo a nice warm welcome as well, and wished him all the best as well, if you get what I'm saying. All right, so just one last thing. Yesterday, it's just sort of come up on my feed today. It was actually yesterday, but in America it's today. It is the anniversary of the day Emmanuel Steward died. So the late great trainer, Manny Steward, who trained 40... Come on, buddy, we'll get away from this dog. Trained 41 world champions. So the world-famed Kronk Gym opened in 1971. And as I said, 41 world champions. He was only 68 years old when he died. Just a true legend of coaching, along the lines of, the Eddie Futchers and Freddie Roaches and Angelo Dundees and all these types of guys. He, in my opinion, was probably the greatest trainer of all time. And fighters like Tommy Hearns and Milton McCrory, Lennox Lewis, I remember Jimmy Paul. You probably don't remember him, but he was one of my favourite fighters at the time. In the mid-80s, he held the IBF lightweight title, and just so many other fighters he's worked with, including, I think, Tyson Fury was with him for a while, and our own Jeff Fennick was over there at a point as well, training with Emmanuel Steward, and just one of those beautiful guys. I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I don't know why he was in Australia. It was probably about, 15 years ago or something. I can't remember how long ago it was, but he was at an amateur show in Melbourne, and had the pleasure of shaking his hand and saying g'day, and just an absolutely lovely guy. And I remember he came to Australia a couple of times actually, with first of all Steve McCrory to fight Jeff Fennick back in 1986, and then in 1989, or actually it might have been 1990, I can't remember, but when he had the rematch, Dennis Andrews against Jeff Harding, I was actually at that fight as well, and Dennis Andrews, who'd lost his WBC 175-pound title to Harding before that, came to Australia and took his title back with a 7th round knockout. But just a truly remarkable trainer. You ever seen him on TV or whatever it is? Just he had his fighters, had their attention, had their respect, had their love, and just in my opinion, as I said, the best trainer that's ever graced our great sport. So I think that's it for today, guys. I think I had a little bit of a list here. I always try to make a bit of a list as I go. I think that's about it. Yes, that is it officially. I just thought I'll check my notes. But guys, I hope you have a great day. As I said, here it is absolutely beautiful. So I'm assuming wherever you are in the world, it's the same. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you tomorrow.